Yeah. Yeah.
Welcome in, everybody. It is Tuesday, which means one thing and one thing only. It is time for the Fantasy Cheat Sheet presented by Going for Two live over on YouTube, Twitch, everything. Going for Two live. Hit the like and subscribe. Let's get into the cast and crew before we get into the meat and potatoes of the episode. First off, we got Jamie. What is up, my man?
Man, I love just awesome. Excited for the Scott Fishbowl rolling out. And the Potathon, I listened to almost all of it, and I just kept hearing going for two every half hour. They just kept talking about going for two. I love it.
All right, we'll get into the Scott Fishbowl in a second because you know where I'm going with you on that one. And last but not least, we got Zach. Zach is back in action.
Yes.
Zach, what is up, my man?
What is up? Good to be back. No, I'm glad to be here, and it feels just like old times. I'm ready to talk some fantasy football as always.
All right, so before we get into the quick news of the day, our episode today is going to be about quarterbacks and tight ends. But just like Jamie mentioned, Scott Fishbowl is rolling, and I do have to talk about one thing and one thing. Jamie, I was on in the middle of the night at 2:30 a.m. listening because I couldn't sleep. And you were there, and I'm like, this guy doesn't sleep. You were there at 4:30, you were there at 5:30. Then
Yep.
I wake up at about 8 o'clock that morning to see the amount that Going for Two donated. And I get a message from Jamie that says, look what my dummy rear end did. And Jamie goes and auctions off, not auction, but says, hey, if you guys donate, I will take Roschon Johnson with my first pick overall at 107. Jamie, good for you holding your word. But what were you thinking?
I mean, I got to get my guy, right? I didn't want someone else to take him, so I had to get him. But it was funny because I made a joke. I was just like, when Jeff and Ryan were on, I made a joke saying, I'll draft Roschon 101. Russ, the Dynasty Outhouse, was like, if you do that, I will donate to the Fantasy Cares. And then after that, I got with Jeff. I was like, I got a 0.0003% chance of winning anyway, so why not do it just to get the money for the Fantasy Cares? And I took it a step further and just put it out there, got more people to donate, raised over $200. I could not, and I had to take them, or else I would have just looked like a big jerk.
Oh, no, you had to take them. When I heard that you were doing it, I was like, only Jamie.
Yes, I would.
Out of all the guys, though, at least it was Roschon. The clear running back one in Chicago, but I guess that's for another week, another position.
Exactly. All right, so for the news, there hasn't been much going on. I just want to bring it up quickly, not get too much into it because we don't really know what's going to happen. Alvin Kamara did plead no contest. They are going to drop the felony charge. Jamie, what do you think he's going to end up getting suspension-wise? Is this a big deal yet, or what do you think?
He'll get a suspension, definitely. I don't see him more than like 4 to 6 games, if that.
Yeah. Zach, what do you think?
I would say I'm guessing 4, but I could see an appeal maybe having it drop down to 2. I don't really trust the NFL with punishments. Have they ever really been known to handle these well? They usually give a lot for weird things and not very much for pretty serious things. So you never know, but I'm thinking 4, and I could definitely see an appeal and maybe like they battle it out where they agree on 2. That's what I think a lot of fantasy owners would like to see as well.
And is it going to happen this year, you think, or will they wait until next year?
I think it's going to happen this year now.
I think
now that it's over. Yeah.
Now that the case is over, I think the punishment, because usually the league offices like to wait until everything's been settled legally before they can really come in, because then they actually know everything with what's going on.
And when do you think we're going to find out how many games?
August.
I think it'll be in the camps, preseason time. I think we'll definitely know before the regular season. I think the NFL will want to capitalize on making a statement about it. I feel like they've been trying to be pretty clear with the punishments and trying to really be proactive with just kind of putting their foot down lately.
Yeah, I think we'll find out. I agree with Zach 100%. I think we'll find out second week of August, after the first preseason week.
Also, I did want to ask real quick before we move on to the next part with the Scott Fishbowl. Have you guys both drafted already?
I'm in.
I'm in the middle of mine. I'm on my 9th round, I believe. I'm actually on the clock. I'm going to
Eh.
take my pick after.
Mike, you have?
I'm in the 7th round.
How's it looking so far? I'm just curious. I don't start until Sunday at the Chicago Live.
You're in the live draft.
Huh?
You're in the live draft, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. We do
So I'll read my roster off real quick. And then Jamie, if you want, you can do the same. We already know you got Roshan.
Because I'm excited to hear the other teams. I'm jealous. I'm not drafting.
So I'm at the 1-7, and I ended up going Joe Burrow at the 1-7. Back at the 2-6, I was able to get Bijan. And then I went Deshaun Watson, T. Higgins, J.K. Dobbins, Dallas Goedert, and then it got really funky, and I ended up going Cam Akers at 7-6.
Okay, I like it. You know what I like about this too? This is the 107 group chat in a live stream.
Yep,
Yeah.
so I'm at the 107.
Yeah, what do you got,
love to see
Jamie?
it.
Let's see. I started off with obviously the number 1 running back in the league, Roshan Johnson. Came back around. Dak was there. I was hoping to get Deshaun Watson, but I'll settle for Dak. And then Derrick Henry in the 3rd. I got George Kittle in the 4th. Russell Wilson in the 5th. And this pick was kind of iffy, but I wanted to stack them with Russ. I got Jerry Jeudy. And then I went Dobbins in the 7th and Rashad White in the 8th.
And you said it was Burrow you took at 7, Mike?
Yeah.
For your first over? Oh, I love Burrow at 7.
So it went Herbert.
I mean,
went,
I
Herbert
get what
went
Jamie
6th.
was doing,
Yeah.
so I
Herbert
respect that.
Yeah. Herbert went 6th overall. I was contemplating, I don't know if I would have done it or not, but I told myself that if Burrow was taken at 6 and it was Herbert at 7, that I was contemplating taking CMC. I didn't know if I was going to do it, but when Burrow fell to me at 7, there was no doubt about it. The one thing I do want to bring up strategy-wise, because like you said, Jamie, you wanted Deshaun and you weren't able to get him. I was contemplating taking – I had Bijan and Watson queued up at 206 and didn't know which one to take. I took Bijan at 206, and Deshaun fell to me at 3.
Wow.
I don't think that would have happened the other way around.
No,
If
no
I would
way.
have taken Deshaun,
Bijan
would have gone right away with the running back stuff. I am shocked that I was able to get Deshaun at 3. The only thing with the upside of everything going on in the draft, the only reason I am kind of bummed that I took Watson, not that I don't think Watson's going to do good, because I do. Richardson fell to the 4th round in mine. So I could have ended up with Richardson in the 4th, but with the upside. But yeah, I am okay having him. I've seen Richardson going 201.
I'm determined this year, boys. You know, from worst to first, baby.
You can't get worse than last year.
There's a couple more. Not much worse.
My goal is just not to come in last.
I literally have to just draft a team that can stay healthy past week 1, and I'll do better than last year.
Yeah.
See, in my draft, quarterbacks went 1 through 6, so I was going to take either Fields or Kelsey if I didn't do that bet. But
Kelsey was there at 107.
Yeah, dude.
I would have taken him.
I probably would have.
But he had the bet.
But but the guy that drafted after me, after he saw I took Roshan and found out why, he said if he wins the division, because I let him get Fields, he'll donate another $20.
Well, he didn't win anything special by getting Fields. It's a Bears player. Sorry, I live here. Sorry, I'm a little biased against the Bears.
I know you live there. Okay,
it's even worse now. I hear it all the time.
It's all the time. And just wait for next Sunday when you're around freaking John and Steven and those guys.
I won't even remember because John's just going to be making me drink JMO the whole time. The live draft's about 5 minutes from my house. So
is it that close?
Yeah, so I'm on. I'm gonna be Ubering home. Safe to say, Ubering there too.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're better off.
Yeah, yep, yeah. Especially with John. If anyone knows him, that man drinks JMO like it's water, and it's
Oh yeah,
disgusting.
I've hung out 2 years in a row with that guy for 4 days. I know how it is.
I say I don't drink, and then I have my times I meet up with John.
Yeah,
That's how
that's
I
all you
describe
need.
it.
That's all you need. All right, so let's get into the meat and potatoes of this bad boy. We are talking quarterback and tight end. It don't matter what it is about them, just whoever we want to talk about. And then at the end, we'll have our cheat of the week, like always. Zach, your team, your favorite football team, those Green Bay Packers. Why don't you just set it off right, buddy?
Well, there's a new quarterback in town. You probably haven't heard that anywhere. It hasn't been discussed at all this offseason. But there is a new guy as our head quarterback, and I am thrilled about it. You know, I've been waiting for this for a long, long time. I've defended him, and then I felt like the pessimist against him because everyone jumped on his bandwagon after 7 minutes against the Eagles. Don't get me wrong. That touchdown to Christian Watson was like porn for me. That's not the point here. The point is people got a little too excited when there's still not much film there. My big love for Jordan Love, though, is he's QB 21 in redraft, and he's 93 overall in Superflex. They have a really easy strength of schedule, so there should be opportunities to score. But more than anything, I viewed Jordan Love someone like Jared Goff or Daniel Jones of last year. Guys that were league winners for me. And it's not because they were QB1 or QB3. It's because of the fact that they were to produce higher than what I paid for them. You know, I believe Jared Goff finished at QB10. It was Jones and Goff back to back, something like that, 9 or 10 or 10 or 11. And those are league winners as my two QBs in a lot of leagues just due to the fact that they were consistent. And that's what I look at Jordan Love to be potential. You know, obviously, you don't know. There's not enough film to really believe one way or the other, but I think it's a great buy low. And with the tight ends we're talking about too, I expect a lot more two tight end sets. They were aggressive in taking tight ends with Musgrave and Kraft. I like them. They're athletic. They can both block. They'll be on the field a lot, and I think they're trying to have as many weapons out there in that offense as possible. So when Jordan Love, if he's under pressure, he has a lot of guys who are out there that have the ability to catch and do something with the ball. What are your guys' thoughts?
I don't hate Love. I just find myself not drafting him because other people take him before I'm willing to do it. But I wouldn't mind having him on my team this year just to take the shot, especially that late. He's going in, 11th, 12th round?
Yeah.
Single quarterback leagues.
Yeah. He's fallen late, and that's where I look at him where if I'm a little aggressive taking him in the 9th or the 10th, that's still a really cheap QB there. The expectations are low, but really he can outperform that so easily, especially in an offense that has a lot of weapons. Say what you want about J-Lo and what he will be. There's at least weapons in place so they can see what he can do.
Yeah, and obviously the tight ends, I mean, I'm not drafting them in redrafts. I try to stay away from some rookies. But in dynasty-wise, I've been finding myself getting Kraft off the waiver wires after the draft is done.
Yep. I have Musgrave at tight end 36 according to Fantasy Pros for redraft, and Kraft is tight end 46. And then for Dynasty, it's tight end 19 for Musgrave and tight end 34 for Kraft. And
then
I've been just picking him up off waivers. He's a great taxi squad guy. I mean, I expect to see him on the field plenty.
And I mean, look what happened the last time someone drafted two tight ends like around apart. It was the Ravens. They got Hurst, and then a couple rounds later they got Andrews. So I'm willing to put my chips in, put him on the Texas squad, see what happens in a couple of years. He could turn into a Mark Andrew type player. You never know.
Especially someone with like Kraft. He came from such a small school at South Dakota State, where there's really just a lot of upside we don't know, and I think he'll take time. But there's a lot of things. He's really impressing in camps, and I mean, I'd take that with a grain of salt because a lot of guys impress in camps and, never really turn into anything. But I'm liking the initial reports, and it sounds like he's doing better than expected. But he's more of a long-term guy, and I think a dynasty stash for sure.
Yep.
All right, so you stole the thunder out of my mouth, Mr. Jamie Perogue. I was going to bring up the fact that I like Kraft better than Musgrove, especially for maybe not level but for ADP and what you can get him at, I would rather have Kraft at his value. especially in Dynasty, because we all know that rookie tight ends don't normally hit right off the bat, and that's fine. You just got to accept that. And I think the potential of Kraft, especially what you said, Zach, about being from a smaller school and needing that, and because of that, maybe needing that extra year or two to develop, I think Kraft is the guy I would want. Now let's go over to the quarterback. I honestly, not saying I love him, no pun intended, not saying I hate him, no pun intended. I don't know how to feel about this guy. Because the last time we waited 4 years to see a freaking quarterback in Green Bay, he ended up being a freaking Hall of Famer. I don't think that's going to happen. And the problem is that's the expectation you guys have in Titletown.
I wouldn't say that. I would say my expectation is this is a QB 21 with a lot more upside than the guys in the territory he's being taken.
Oh,
And even for this year, I think there's upside at the value you're getting him. And I'm not projecting this guy to be a Hall of Famer.
Oh, I know you're not.
I think there's upside. I think there's upside, and I want to find out. But I think it's a guy that, especially in Dynasty, prior to this year, he was a toss-in in trades. And I went from 2 QBs to 3 or 3 to 4 in all these leagues. Where it's like, sweet, I got another starter. Yeah. The expectations aren't high, but I can turn around and flip them. If I'm not optimistic with what I'm seeing on film, there's at least a quick turnaround where if he produces for 3-4 weeks to start the year, I can be like, hey, look, he can run a little. I don't know.
Yeah, for this year and this year only, would you rather have him or Derek Carr? You've looked at the rankings. I know you know why I'm asking.
Jordan Love. Okay. I think there's more upside. I'm nervous about the coaching situation because I'm excited to see what LaFleur can do, because I think my upside with the Packers offense is less about Jordan Love. It's more about the fact that this is LaFleur's first year where I think he can actually run the fucking offense that he wants. Excuse my language. No, but Aaron Rodgers, these two, they were mano a mano. It wasn't like the coach and then everyone else. Yep. It was the coach, Aaron Rodgers, and then everyone below. And I think we'll actually see an offense that fully represents him as a head coach now that Aaron's out the door.
Yeah, no, I got you. So to go from Zach's favorite team, everyone thought that I would want to talk about my favorite team when it came to quarterback and tight end, and I actually kind of didn't. But Jamie's taking it for me. Jamie, go.
Yep. Yeah, so obviously the number one tight end in the league, the number one quarterback in the league, we got Kelsey and Mahomes. The reason I want to talk about them because, I can't really say much that you guys don't already know, but I was in a draft, and I was at the 6th spot, and it was a best ball, and I ended up going Kelsey. And then when it came back around, Mahomes was there, and that's usually right around where he goes, like middle to late second. So I thought about it. I'm like, if I draft them, I have that stack. Plus, I don't have to worry about tight end, quarterback the rest of the way. So I ended up pushing the button on Mahomes. I got the Kelsey Mahomes stack in a best ball. Yeah, it's single quarterback. You're not going to be able to do this in a super flex league. Impossible. But I was happy. And then I just kept pushing buttons on the receivers next few rounds. Got a few nice running backs later, and then didn't have to worry about tight end and quarterback. Now, would you guys do that? Or would it be a little too risky for you spending top 2 picks on the one-off position?
As much as I would want to slander these two names because Mike's in here, it's Mahomes and Kelsey. There's no counter. It's you have those two, you're happy in any format.
Here's what I would say, because you both know that, yes, they're my team, but you also both know that I hate drafting them just because that's just how I am sometimes. But when you're playing in like best ball, where you're playing in the big ones where, the best ball mania and stuff like that, and you have to go for broke and you need those differentiations, abso-freaking-lutely, because you're going to need that, because it's only one quarterback in those, you get the top guy, the differentiation between tight end 1 and tight end 2, we've said it just about Scott Fishbowl. The difference in tight end 1 and tight end 2 or tight end 3 comparably to wideout 1 and wideout 3 is so much of a gap that if you could do it, you'd almost be dumb not to. I just think a lot of people that are going for that Kelsey in that first round are not able to come back with Mahomes, or they see it and get scared. Jamie, you like doing, on some things, you like doing bold stuff, but there are times where you just like to do dumb shit. And not saying that's dumb, but that's one of those bold takes that you're willing to do that some people aren't willing to do just because.
Yeah, true. But I was happy with it, man. Just having
I would.
top players at those positions. So I was thinking if I wait till round 3, I knew Mahomes wasn't going to be there. And then even after I took Mahomes, there was like two other quarterbacks went after him in the same round. So
I feel this way about Mahomes. It doesn't matter what the format, single QB, super flex, you name it. You can't take him too early. There's enough years left in his tank. He's performed at an elite level enough years where there's no reason to question any of it. And I mean, even in a single QB league, I have no issue with being aggressive in a dynasty startup 1 QB for Mahomes because I know that I'm still probably going to get, 12, 14 years of a very elite level at quarterback. And, when you have something that secure, it's hard to bet against that in any way.
Well, yeah, just hold on. Stall a little bit more, Jamie.
I was going to say, I definitely took Mahomes in a single QB startup a couple years ago. I believe it was 2020. Took him 101 in a single QB.
Wow.
And it was early, but my philosophy was I looked at it at the time and I said, who can give me the most years of production? And it was Mahomes. I knew, like, obviously there's a lot of QBs that are great that can produce, but someone like Mahomes, you're going to get so many great years. It's exciting. And
Yeah.
I mean, Mike, how many leagues do you have him in? I feel like you.
Well, this is what I want to bring him up. This is why I wanted you to stall, because I wanted to bring it up. Jamie and me talked about it have talked about it off air a couple times, but I'm in a 1 QB dynasty league with people that I've told you about this in the past, Zach. One that they don't really like to trade a lot, and because they were all new to dynasty, they don't have the right values for quarterbacks in 1 QB. They like to overvalue. Well, we got a guy that took over an orphan 2 years ago. He's in a rebuild. He knows that, but he's still kind of leery about values. And I was like, last year I got 3rd. There is a pot for the first person to repeat. I'm in the hunt for that. There's a few of us in the hunt for that. And 2 of us that are in the hunt. One finished 2nd, one finished 3rd. So like I'm on that point where I need to get it. And my quarterbacks at one point were, my starter was Matthew Stafford. Well, last year I traded for Watson, and that kind of didn't do great last year because I was trying to do it last year. So he hit me up about a different trade. It ended up talking about Mahomes, and I literally told Jamie, I'm like, I don't give a shit. Like I'm gonna get Mahomes. I'm not telling the guy it don't matter, but I'm getting freaking Mahomes. So the trade ended up being, this was right before the rookie draft. I ended up getting Mahomes and 104, which ended up being Addison. For the 102, I ended up paying a lot for him, but I wanted to differentiate myself hardcore. I paid up the 102, a 24 first, a 25 second, Jerry Jeudy, and Matthew Stafford, because he didn't have any other quarterbacks. He didn't have another starter, so he demanded I give him Stafford.
When you upgrade to someone like Mahomes, there's no price to pay. Or there's no price where you can overpay. If you're making that move, you're making that move. And so I should have said this as well. When I took him 101 in that Dynasty single QB startup, it was a 16 team.
Yeah.
So I knew QB was going to be. I knew QB was going to be thinner. But even it just, people are destined to have a non-top 10 QB at some point. And I, with that in mind, I traded Patrick Mahomes before last season, and I got 2 first. And we do a lottery for the 8 teams that don't make the playoffs. And So I got Jared Goff, who I acquired in almost every league. I love him. He won me so many leagues. I can't say that enough. But I traded for Jared Goff, and he was a buy low guy, and he produced very well for me. He got me into the playoffs still. But I also got it was supposed to be 104 and 108 for the lottery, but it turned into Bijan Robinson at the 101, and then I got Dalton Kincaid at the 106.
Okay.
So it turned out really well. But that's where there's no price to overpay. If you're making that move, like
I'm going for that chip.
yeah, I can't criticize it because that's saying, hey, I'm ready to win now, and I know this guy will help me do it.
And the other guy wasn't going to win now whatsoever. So he's like, I'm not going to waste Mahomes on my team and not win. So he's like, I'll give him to you.
But if you think about it, that's really not that much of an overpay because you got Addison along with it. So you pretty much gave up Gibbs, a late first, right?
Yeah, it should be a late first.
Jerry Jeudy, and then like an old Matt Stafford that who knows he's got like a couple years left.
And a 25 too.
Yeah, and that's a single quarterback league. What really is that? It's not really
That's good.
So I like it, Mike. I thought that's an awesome trade.
All right, so for my first one, this is more of a little bit different. This is more of a round table discussion on this one because I know Zach's already shaking his head. Mr. Danny freaking Dimes. He goes out. They get Darren Waller, which I absolutely love for this team. Jamie, we've already talked about it. I wrote Darren Waller in my tight end article for Dynasty Nerds. Another tight end that I wrote up in my article for Dynasty Nerds is coming up in a little bit in this show, and I'll get to that later. But because of that, because of him and getting Hyatt and everything, I think that the expectations for Danny Dimes are a little too high this year. I don't know. I know Zach loves him, but Zach, you love him because he won you chips. Do you think he's going to end up being a top 12 quarterback this year?
League winner Dimes, as I like to call him.
No, league winner, fine. But there's people that are saying he's going to finish top eight. Top eight, I don't think so.
I think 8 is probably a ceiling. I look at him at 10 to 12, just like last year. I think there's weapons in place, but I'm actually projecting him at QB 14, but I still think that can be a league winning quarterback because my preferred strategy is to go 0 QB, even in Superflex.
Yeah.
And someone like Danny Dimes, Jared Goff, Jordan Love, some of those guys where I'm getting them much later, those are the guys I'm targeting there. And that's
I
where
have no problem with the way you're seeing
I like
I have no problem with your
but
strategy.
I think people need to cap expectations. This is a Giants offense that has underwhelmed on multiple fronts year after year. Every time there's a weapon that we really get excited about, it turns into a dud. I think we really need to look at Danny Dimes as just a middle of the road QB. I think he's a great league winning type of quarterback if you're going with a certain draft approach, but otherwise really tamper those expectations. I just don't know what people have seen to necessarily think he's going to jump into an elite tier or like a fringe elite. No, that's too much for me. And that's where if someone wants to pay that price, like I've sold Danny in a few leagues this offseason because someone wanted to pay the premium. And I'm like, hey, if you want to treat him like a QB 7 or 8, that's cool with me because that's not where I see him.
Yeah. Jamie, what's your take? But before you give your take, I got a question for you that has to do with this, Jamie. Is Danny Dimes, because of the contract that he just got, just a younger version of Kirk Cousins?
I think he has got a little more upside than Kirk Cousins, though, because he's got that rushing upside. And he doesn't have the weapons Kirk Cousins has. So
no,
that's why it kind of balances out a little bit. They did try to add more weapons around him. They gave him Waller, obviously. He's elite. Paris Campbell, he stayed healthy last year. They're going to feature him more. And, then they got the one-trick pony with Hyatt. They do have a tougher schedule this year, so I can see them throwing the ball a little bit more. So that's why I do have him like right outside the top 12, like in that 13, 14 area. He does have that upside, though, to finish as 10, 11, 12. But if I'm taking him as the quarterback, 14 off the board, that's what I would want, like someone that could be top 10.
So, yeah.
Or I was just to feed off of Jamie. I see a potential, like if everything goes right with a lot of dishing to Saquon and Hyatt pans out and he's ready right away and Waller stays healthy. There is a realm where he can go QB 7 or 8, but that you need everything to go right. And enough of these things we haven't seen happen year after year just in that one area, let alone in all the areas.
Yeah.
What you were saying, Mike?
No, I was just gonna tie it up by saying he could end up in that area, but I just think he's gonna be like you said. I agree with you, Zach. I'm not saying he's bad. That's not like I just think he's gonna end up right around where he's being drafted. In that 12 to 15 range, which is fine, especially if you're doing that low end QB. Zach loves his quarterbacks that he can get low. There's a quarterback that he's been buying low that he got low last year that I predicted to be in the top 15 of quarterbacks that everyone laughed at me when I said was going to have a good year last year. Zach, he is from Detroit. Why don't you talk about him?
Not from Detroit, close enough though. I'll take it as a compliment.
No, the quarterback's from Detroit.
Yeah. I try and forget that part. They put on the Lions uniform. That's kind of a scary thought for any guy.
Yeah.
But with that in mind, I love me some Jared Goff. The dude won me leagues last year, and he's being discounted again this year. QB 19, according to what I'm looking at on Fantasy Pros, QB 18. He's going 68 overall in Superflex though. Are you kidding me? He produced what? Oh, he finished 11th last year. This guy, why is he not going at that QB 14? Is it because everyone just really expects Russell Wilson to just shine after a few rough years? I'm excited about Sean Payton. I understand they have weapons, but Jared Goff has weapons. He has a team that believes in him, and that's what I find so funny about. Everyone loves Amon-Ra St. Brown. So many people are high on Jamison Williams. There's a lot of hype for another guy I love there, Sam Laporta. I know we've talked about production from rookie tight ends. They got Gibbs, Montgomery. They are loaded with weapons. There's a lot of reasons to be excited about this offense. And while Jared Goff's not a sexy asset, he's someone that I see where he can definitely outproduce that price. And he can just provide consistency. Because to me, we love those guys that can give you the 40, 50-point weeks. Obviously, we want those. But if I can be patient on taking my QBs and get someone like Jared Goff who will consistently give me 20 to 30 and then be more dominant at every other position, that's the route I'm going to go every time. And for me, it works out. But it's about targeting the right guys and really trying to play the buy low price. But with that, you need to be careful as well because if you're in leagues like Mike where they don't really like to trade, it's a lot more of a dangerous game. For me, I find my trades one way or another. I'm kind of a pain in the ass about that, but it works out for me. And unless you're willing to put in the legwork of making those moves, I wouldn't really recommend the zero QB approach.
Yeah, you got to play it right. Jamie, go ahead about golf because I know you have some feelings about this one.
I mean, I like golf. I am targeting him. I don't want him as my quarterback one, obviously, but I would take him all day as my quarterback two. Especially in best ball because he does have those top 5 weeks upside. He had a bunch of them last year. He was in the top 10 a lot. But the games that he didn't do well in, he was like quarterback 28, 29. But in a best ball situation, like just hope you have someone else on your team that will be placed in that starter spot at the time. But Laporta, he is one of the tight ends that I would like to have as a rookie. Like I think they're going to feature him a lot, especially with Jameson Williams out. I mean, it's a high-powered offense. They added 2 new running backs that are better than last year's duo. So you're going to have more sustainable drives. And once Jameson Williams comes back, man, like that offense is going to be unstoppable. So I like golf. He's going to put up multiple top 10 games. And you're getting him at what? Quarterback 16? 17?
Yeah, QB 18. Yeah. And that's where, to me, when I'm taking this QB or the zero QB approach, it's taking a Jordan Love, Danny Dimes, and Jared Goff. I wait and then I have 3 where I can play the matchups. Where then those weeks where I see Jared Goff's going against the Eagles defense and I'm like, oof, I don't like that matchup. That's when I'm playing the other guy.
Yeah.
But I think that's you really need to start playing matchups then, and it is a lot more work. And that's where the luxury of those top tier QBs, that's what's nice about him. You can just leave him in there. You don't really have to stress the matchups at all.
Yep. I mean, you got Gibbs that can catch the ball better than Swift. Then you got Montgomery that can catch the ball better than Jamal. So upgraded offense, man.
And I think it's just important to emphasize that there's a system and a coach and a team that believe in Goff. They had their opportunity to move forward,
Yep.
and they extended him. And I think that says a lot on how the team views him. It's not that I would actually have him finishing at QB 12. I have him finishing higher than Danny Dimes. And I think it's more realistic that Goff finishes in that 10 to 12 than Danny Dimes. I think they'll both be close, but I'm taking Goff before Dimes just based off that price every time.
Yeah, you guys have pretty much said all I need to say about Goff because we're all in agreement on Goff, how much we like him this year and in general. Like you said, the weapons or whatever. I do want to bring one more thing up on your topic because I know you put it down. How do we feel about Laporta overall this year, or do we think this is more of a future play?
I think it's a little bit of both. You could play him this year, and I wouldn't trust him in a redraft. I would take him in a best ball because I could see him. He's athletic. He can catch the ball. As your tight end 3 even.
Yeah, I like Laporta a lot. I do, but I also find it interesting the comparisons between like Luke Musgrave and Laporta because I think to me I see more value. It's still 9 tight ends later and it's 6 dynasty tight ends later, and I just know I like Laporta, but he's getting a lot more hype than I expected right now. And I think it's just because of how we've seen Hawkinson flourish in that offense, and I get it. But I think I like Laporta as more of a long-term project. I'm nervous about this year. So to answer your question, Mike, I'm looking more long-term with him.
So am I.
And that's where it's the same thing as those other tight ends from earlier. The rookies, I just don't want to trust it. There's a reason why any of them could produce in their offenses because it's a needed position where they need to fill someone in that role. So they will get reps, but how much of that is going to be targets?
So are we, as a community, not saying us two, us 3 on here, just like we sit there and say, oh, Alabama wide receivers, are we giving him the bump up purely also? I know Hawkinson played it in Detroit before he got traded, but are we giving him the bump because of the Iowa factor? With
it's
Fant
got to be
and Kittle and Hawk and
it's got to be the white boy tight end, the farm boy approach. I mean, because that's where I'm like, damn, where's the Packer farm boy hype? Come on now.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you got the Iowa approach. So
yeah,
it's like as soon as he got drafted, it was like, oh, this, and then it's like, okay, they keep comparing him to that.
Laporta has a lot of reasons to be excited about him. So I mean, there's no reason not to be excited about him in the short term and the long term. I just like Jamie alluded to, I hope he can get more reps while JMO is out on suspension.
Mm-hmm.
I think that'll kind of help him have more of a role then once he's back. So fingers crossed that's the case because then there was definitely a much higher upside for this immediate year.
For sure. So Jamie, let me know why Russ is gonna cook and why they're gonna ride.
We've seen him cook a lot. I mean, yeah, sometimes he was given a microwave to do it. Sometimes he's getting like rusty old pots and pans. But this year, he's got a guy coming in, Sean Payton, that loves to scheme around his quarterback. So he gave him a shiny new toy in Denzel Mims. He brought in
Marvin Mims.
Yeah. Who is Denzel Mims? Is that even a
wide
player?
receiver that's already in the league?
Okay.
No, we want to pretend we want to pretend he still exists because there was hope at one point for Denzel.
Yeah,
Jets wide receiver.
Yeah,
but let's just forgotten asset. The guy that we always believed in the next year. He's like Paris Campbell.
So Jerry Jeudy, I see Jerry Jeudy taking a step forward. Sutton's a little iffy. I'm not really a big fan of him. We've always wanted him to break out. He never has. Maybe this year at age 27, he'll finally break out. But he can't follow him because he is being drafted right now as whatever wide receiver that he'll end up being like 40 something. But with Russ though, he's being drafted. His ADP's quarterback 18, right? Last year he was quarterback 16 at the end of the year. He had a lot of crappy games. Finally, the end of the year, he kind of started showing. He had like a couple 3 touchdown games. He was top 5 quarterback, 2 or 3 times at the end of the year. He started getting going. He's this year he's not going to have as many primetime games, so maybe that's what made him a little nervous. But I just see Sean Payton coming in, setting him up for success. So I actually have him as bold, but Russ is my quarterback 10 this year. Bold take. I'm getting him at quarterback 18. And he's actually the reason I'm not getting a lot of Jordan Love, because I will take Russell Wilson like a round before Love usually goes. So that's probably why I'm not getting Jordan Love a lot.
I can see why you like Russ. I think that it's that range, that 12 to 20. There's a lot of good QBs that should be productive enough. And I think because when I look at the fantasy pros, just 12 and on, I mean, that's Daniel Jones, Kirk Cousins, Geno Smith, Aaron Rodgers, Goff, Wilson, Richardson, Stafford, Carr, Jordan Love. Like, there's a lot of guys in there with a reasonable case for them to produce. But I it's hard to bet against Russ. I'm pessimistic because I'm nervous after the past couple of years. But at QB 17, like that's tough to pass up because there is enough upside. There's enough weapons in place. Mike, do you think that the Broncos' offensive line can actually protect him? Because, I mean, I feel like every year people just keep pretending like there's going to be an offensive line there. And every year there's the Chiefs team just blitzing down their throats. You want to explain to me what's going
There's
on there?
still not an offensive line there, but at all.
I love it.
I do want to say that, Jamie, you brought up the fact that he did better at the end of the year. He played my team. Of course he did better at the end of the year. Our secondary is garbage. Okay, let me get off my soapbox. Here's the thing. I trust Sean Payton enough to make it work, unlike somebody else that didn't make it work in Denver. Not saying that guy is a horrible OC, but he's just not a head coach.
Jury's still out on the OC part.
Well, we can get into that later. My thing with Russ is if he can stop going to the golf course and wrecking golf carts and stay healthy, I think he's going to be fine. I'm not bullish enough to say 10 like you are. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying he's in that range, like Zach said, that he's going to be in that range of being right outside the inside or outside the QB1 territory. Those wide receivers, I think Judy's going to have a decent year. Jamie, you already know how high I am on Marvin Mims. Okay. Yep. Marvin Mims was one of my boys this offseason. I think I watched I don't know. You saw my spreadsheet. I don't know how much I watched film. I don't know how much film I watched on Marvin Mims. Cortland Sutton, to me, is going to be the enigma in this offense in the sense of we don't know what Cortland Sutton is going to do. Okay. The other guy that I think is going to be they went out and got Adam Troutman, but they already got UCLA alum Greg Dulcich.
Okay, thank God. I thought I was about to hear something Albert O related a year later.
No, you're gonna hear Albert O, but not not the way you think I'm going.
Okay, good. All right, good. I'm not here for any Albert
O. Albert O needs to be put out with the recycles on the edge of the curb and just taken to the landfill and not even sorted. Okay, Albert O is gone. He purely, to me, as soon as Drew Lock left the building, Albert O's value left the building because the only reason that Albert O got the ball was because they were buddies in college. So I do think that Russell Wilson has a chance to recoup his value. Speaking of the AFC West, I can't believe this is just freaking talk about my division and it's me bringing up another team. Justin Herbert along with his tight end, Gerald Everett, is where I am going with my next topic. The Cowboys ex-OC, which I will talk a little bit more later, Kellen Moore is now the OC of the San Diego Chargers, because I will always call them the San Diego Chargers. And I think this is a good thing for the Chargers. I think he's going to let Justin Herbert do what Justin Herbert can do. And I do think he's going to use the weapons that they have correctly. They do have Gerald Everett at tight end. Yes, I know, like Zach mentioned earlier, and just in generality about camp hype and sometimes being real, sometimes camp hype is not real. There is camp hype about Darnold Parham doing good at Chargers minicamp. But until I see it in a game, Gerald Everett can be that veteran presence. Even in dynasty startups, he is going way too late. I know he's getting older. He's only got a couple more years, but he's going low end. Like in one dynasty ADP that I saw, he is going as tight end 28. I would rather have him ahead of some of those veterans that are ahead of him. For dynasty nerds, they're coming out with a little quick article about undervalued tight ends and like each position, and that's who I wrote up on. I wrote up on Gerald Everett. So I think that Gerald Everett, along with Justin Herbert, but to get with Justin Herbert, as long as Michael Williams and Keenan Allen, we all know the word I'm about to use, can stay healthy, I think they'll be fine. I hope Quentin Johnson proves me wrong, because I am not the biggest Quentin Johnson fan. However, you still have Eckler out of the backfield that's going to get pass attempts. I trust Kellen Moore to use him correctly. Josh Palmer's still there. I was hoping that Guyton was going to be somebody in that wide receiver core, but I have given up on him. So yeah, I think it's going to be Justin Herbert, and I would not doubt if he ends up being in the top 3 to 5 conversation for MVP at the end of the year.
Yeah, I agree, man. I remember last year he played hurt too. He had that rib injury.
Yep.
And he still threw for over 4,000 yards. And his weapons were hurt more than half of the year. And they just added Quentin Johnson. So, he's got all the weapons. He got one of the best pass catching running backs in the game. So he's got like 6 or 7 options to throw to. So I'm loving Herbert, man. I was hoping he fell to me at the 106. I was in a draft, and he went right before me. And I actually got mad because I really, really wanted him too.
I think something
he ended up tight end 13 last year, I believe.
Something like that.
At the end of the year, if I did the math. I think if he would have got 3 more touchdowns, he would have ended up where Higbee was at tight end 6. Just 3 more touchdowns. So if he could do that this year, I could see him being top 10 at the end of the year. Where is he being drafted? He's being drafted out, like you said, tight end.
In startups, he's being drafted close to tight end 30.
And I'm pretty sure in best balls, I see him going around tight end 15-ish.
I think something that needs to be emphasized with this whole episode today is just the fact of the position. QB and tight end. It's worth it to go premium, top tier, cream of the crop. And otherwise, there are a lot of cases and examples for why you should just be patient, and rather than going for that, 6 to 10 range guy, just to cool it on that, maybe go running back, wide receiver, and address this position at a later point. Someone like Gerald Everett, I think, is a great example. If you don't want to go for the unproven upside of some of the younger names we've mentioned earlier at tight end, someone like Gerald Everett is there late. Yes, he's older, but there's plenty of reason to believe that he can produce this year. So I absolutely agree with you, Mike. I just, Herbert, Mahomes, those are the guys I love to pay up for. But it's funny, the tight end position's the same way. There's only a couple names I'll consider, and otherwise I'll see a few rounds later.
Yep, there's that. Like even in SFB, there's that 4 or 5 that I got Goddard. Goddard was my cutoff. I told myself from the very beginning, if I can get that section, I'm okay. Goddard happened to fall to me. I looked, he was going a round earlier in most drafts. if I didn't get Goddard, I was going to wait for, down below other guys that even Jamie's tight end, and wait for that level of a guy. But if I could get, and that's like you're saying, if you're in that position, you either wait for single position guys, you either get the cream of the crop, or like you do in quarterback, you wait and get the guys that you can wait on because everyone else has already got them.
Yeah, I was just in a 10-team best ball league, and I had the second pick, and I think I took Herbert. It was either the 5th or 6th round, and then round 18, I needed a third tight end, and Everett was there. I was like, I'll stack them, have those big games. So,
and I think there's a real benefit as well if you're waiting on tight end to stack someone. You can definitely do 2 stash tight ends. You can do that young, unproven Sam Laporta type, and you can do someone like Gerald Everett. Then you're riding the immediate production with potential upside somewhere else, but you're not depending on it. And I think that's the important part. You want that security for injury's sake with someone like Everett, but you also want that security from a production standpoint on anyone younger.
Yeah. And like Jamie said, it's all with best ball, you never know. And you know why you never know with best ball? Because today's show is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Check out their industry-leading best ball leagues with huge tournaments and private leagues and pick'ems for every major sport. Sign up with our promo code GF2 in capital letters, GF2, and get a deposit match of up to $100 on your first deposit. It's as simple as that. Sign up, use promo code GF2, and you can start drafting your best ball teams and picking up the players you want.
And for anyone using Underdog, they do pay out really quick. I know from experience. Shout out to them for the Super Bowl. They still hooked it up with the promo code. And, yep, just pulled my money and ran. I believe it's 20 times is the 5-timer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
The 5-timers to 20.
Good old Super Bowl.
All right. So now that we got that out of the way, we have already talked about Zach's current quarterback and tight end situation. Now he's got to talk. Zach, let's talk about that ex-girlfriend that you don't want to talk about.
Well, which one are you referring to? No. With that in mind, Aaron Rodgers, man, he is something else. He's a diva. He's full of himself. He's so many things, but he's also a very talented quarterback. And I think something that needs to be emphasized with Aaron Rodgers, I know this all too well as a Packer fan. The dude hasn't given a shit for multiple years. We've seen that with him not showing up at camps, making all this drama in the offseason, and doing everything except participating with the team to help mold these young wide receivers. Well, guess what? He's in the gym. He's lifting. He's training hard. I love to see it. From a fantasy perspective, I think he's being undervalued because guess what? He's got some great weapons there. He's got Hackett as an OC there, right? He's OC.
Yeah,
right?
OC.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
OC.
then Salah. And I know they're excited about what they have with Aaron. Obviously, all those guys are going to be excited upgrading from the Mormon Mahomes to Aaron Rodgers. So I get that. But, Aaron is someone that he's QB 15 right now, redraft. And to me, I think that's just right in that group that we've talked with everyone else. There's a lot of upside there. I think out of all those QBs in that 12 to 20 range, I think Aaron Rodgers probably has the highest upside in my eyes. Because if we get Aaron Rodgers that actually gives a shit for 18 weeks and he's slinging that rock around and they can protect him, he can win an MVP and he can produce like it fantasy-wise. So I think that's a guy I'm definitely, if I can snag him at that QB 14 range, I want to be aggressive and try and get him right around there. What are your guys' thoughts with Aaron?
So where do you think before Jamie goes? Where do you think he's finishing? What is the highest you think he would go?
The highest I think he can finish?
Yeah.
QB4.
Okay.
I think it's going to be tough to outproduce some of those guys that are more mobile just based off his age. But I mean, we've seen the high efficiency years. Obviously, it depends on format, bonuses, some of that. But high touchdown, low interception guys, Aaron's the cream of the crop there. Outside of someone like Patrick Mahomes, he's going to be efficient with that. And if he's got those guys that are clearly getting open and they're being consistent with their hands like we expect Garrett Wilson to be, there's a lot of reasons to be excited about what he can do this year. I think this is a 1-year thing for Aaron. I don't know past this year, But the fact that you're getting a fully committed Aaron Rodgers, we've seen him win MVPs even when he wasn't committed to the team.
Yep.
So the fact that he's hitting the gym hard and he actually cares, part of me still loves the dude and I'm rooting for him in a way. But I've watched him through so many ups and downs of his career, like on the field, off the field. And when the dude cares, he cares, and he is locked in right now. And I want to bet on that as much as I can with my fantasy teams because I think it'll show on the field. What are your guys' thoughts with Aaron?
Jamie, go ahead because I have something to say.
Here's my problem with Rodgers. Every time I see this guy's face, I just want to punch him. I hate the guy. I think he's the biggest douche in the whole world as a human. He
So
is
was
a great.
Tom Brady, but I still thought he was a good QB.
At least Brady has a smile on his face once in a while.
Aaron's smiling now.
But yeah, no, like he's going in that same range Russell Wilson's going. So that's who I'm kind of targeting. I've never drafted Aaron Rodgers one time, any league ever. And that's out of hundreds of drafts. Just never liked the guy. I know he's going to the Jets. He's got the weapons now. But he's got a great running game. And, I mean, that could help him. But they have a great defense. So how often does he need to throw the ball?
I think I look at him at like 40 touchdowns and like 6 interceptions kind of thing. I don't think it's the volume, but I think it's the efficiency.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be more in that consistent, high 20s, low 30s than it would be those 40s and 50s games. I think it's less of the boom of those other names and more of just like the high floor. Because yeah, their defense is going to be their strong suit. Mike, what are your thoughts? I'm curious.
Here we go. Jamie, you're wrong about the running game because in the sense of we don't know. We don't know if Brees is going to be healthy. And you got Izzy, but here's the problem. I still think there's a chance that the starting running back of the Jets on day one of NFL season, week 1, isn't even in camp yet.
Are you talking about Izzy?
No, Dalvin Cook.
I'm talking about that. I still think.
See, that's what I was thinking. My thought was he was going there anyway.
But we can't go there quite yet. Here's the thing with Rodgers. The one thing that I love the fact of what you brought up, Zach, is, and I do agree with you, Jamie, because you're the one that messaged me about it today. And then I went back to all the photos that I have about freaking Aaron Rodgers in my phone from all the graphics I made. And yes, he looks like a tool bag in every single one of them. But tool bag or not, Zach brought up the point about him winning MVPs when he didn't give a shit about the coach, the team, or anybody around him. Okay? I can't believe I'm saying this because I talked so much crap about this person last offseason, last year when he sucked and everything. That's not Aaron Rodgers. I do think that Hackett is a blessing in disguise for the Jets team, having Aaron because of the rapport that they have. Not saying that he made Rodgers. That's obviously not. Okay, if any person, not just a stud quarterback, not just a star athlete, is willing to go into a hole of darkness for 3 days to get some spiritual cleansing and then come out with those weapons, I'm not saying for Zach, but I would. No, I understand your point. But I could easily see him being 7, 8 with the upside of 4.
Yes, and that's where I see him. I feel like the 7 or the 8 is right where I see him being, but 4 is it. I would say 4 is if the offensive line can do its job, because I think that's my biggest concern. Yes, there are questions about their running game, but I think people, underappreciate the amount of protection that Aaron Rodgers had in Green Bay, where year after year they did a good job of building up an offensive line to protect him. And that was one of the biggest issues for the Jets last year. I understand with a better QB in there, it'll change the dynamic of that offensive line. But at the same time, it takes me to that same thing with Denver. The question of, can they protect him? If Aaron Rodgers is protected, you give him some time, he can do some amazing things. But if he's always under pressure, that's when I'm definitely going to see him fall out of that single-digit QB range and into those teens.
And I mean, you got Garrett Wilson, you got Lazard. I'm not saying this guy's great, but every single time that Aaron Rodgers and Randall Cobb are on the damn field together, Cobb gets he's gonna have a couple games where he's gonna have decent production. This is the make it or break it year for Corey frickin' Davis because they got rid of Elijah Moore over to Jamie's team, which I love that for Jamie's team. But
Same.
getting rid of Elijah Moore and opening up another spot for him, for Corey. Jamie, you were on the podathon for 20, probably 36 out, like 30 of the 36 hours.
I think it was 29 total.
So you know what I'm about to say. If you know what I'm about to say, then I have a certain player on the Jets on 2 of my teams on the taxi squad.
Oh, yeah.
And if anybody is going to give a tight end volume and a young guy, if Jeremy Ruckert can get any play on this offense with Conklin helping him out, I think this offense can thrive even more. And this is one of the first times that I am all in on Aaron Rodgers. And when I saw that Zach wanted to talk about him, I'm like, all right, I'm letting Zach have it. But I'll be honest, I did not know which direction you were going, Zach. So I am pleased to see that you went this route.
It's hard for me, because the Packer fan in me, if this season wants to go to hell, poor Aaron, that's too bad. Shucks. But at the same time, there's enough talent there. We've seen it year after year, and I really just like seeing all these pictures in camp of him just actually being there, a smile on his face, training, reading the reports of these different wide receivers, learning what he wants. And I'm like, damn, this sounds lovely. I wish I had a quarterback like that wanted to work with my young guys. And I'm like, oh, wait, now I do. It's the best of both worlds. But, yeah, Aaron, it's a guy that, man, he's a dick, but he's a damn good football player. And
for sure.
I'm on bet on that when it comes to fantasy points. And luckily there's no karma points on my fantasy football team.
Exactly.
But I think Ruckert is a good person you can just throw on the end of your roster, very last pick.
Who's the
you got Uzama, Rucker, and
who's the white boy?
Barrios.
Barrios
is on Miami now.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, Jamie, you did steal one of my topics, so you better do this topic justice.
Oh,
take it away.
So when you go to barbecues, what do you got? You got the ribs, you got your burgers. And then there's always that one little side dish sitting there at the end of the table everyone goes for, the mac and cheese. That's right. I want to talk about Michael McCorkle Jones. You all know him as Mac Jones. I think he's going criminally too late, especially I can see why, though. His finishes last year, he got benched for Bailey Zappi, but then they brought him back.
You made your own case.
They brought him back in. All right. Now he's got a new offensive coordinator. They brought in Juju, right? And what goes best with mac and cheese? Sprinkle a little bacon on it. You could even have broccoli in it. So the bacon and broccoli is going to be Mike Gesicki and Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry is being overlooked by a lot of people. He actually did not that bad. You can get him with your very last pick, 19th, 20th round. Because no one's looking at him. Gesicki, you can get him with your 15th, 16th round pick. You can get Mac Jones in the same 15, 16 round. So if you want to stack at the very, very end of best balls, you could do it in rounds 15, 16. So I was in one the other day finishing off, and I ended up taking Mac Jones, hoping Gesicki would fall back to me. He didn't. So I just waited for my very, very last pick and ended up taking Hunter Henry as my third tight end. Mac Jones was also my third quarterback. I'm not trusting him as my second quarterback because he's going, quarterback 28 off the board? He's not going to finish higher than quarterback 20, I don't think. He'll be right around that 20 area, but you're getting him as quarterback 28. So that late in drafts, I look for those upside plays, and especially with the new offense that they're going to be running. You got Gesicki, you got Juju. I just don't see him finishing quarterback 28.
Jamie, you're lucky I love you because some of the things I'm thinking right now, they aren't very nice. It's not about you. It's not about you. It's not about your opinions. It's purely about Mac Jones or Mac and Cheese, as you like to call him.
Go ahead, Zach. Give your whole take because Jamie already knows I'm going.
That's why I wanted to bring him up.
I look at Mac and Cheese like a Mac of piling shit. Nope, I'm all good on that. I don't want it. I look at his upside as, I saw more hope last year, but I really didn't see the flashes I hoped for. I think if this was last year, I would have been more so there with you. And while I do think he's undervalued, I just don't really see much upside. As someone that's had him as like their QB3 or QB4 in a lot of super flexes, I'm aware of the lack of market there is. There is definitely a realm where that can increase. I mean, for what you have to pay, where you have to take him, he's definitely way cheaper than any of that QB20 range. He's treated at, rounds and rounds later. So I do see some benefit, definitely an opportunity to make money there or make a revenue in regards to assets. But, man, we saw it last year. Bailey Zappi came in, he stole the thunder, and then they're like, well, shit, we did take this guy in the first round. We better throw him back out there. And I think we would have seen more already. Part of me always wants to believe that third year
flashes in his rookie year. People forgot how good he was back then.
My memory must be bad, Jamie. My memory must be bad because I'm forgetting. Mike, what are your thoughts?
All right, so Jamie, I'm gonna give you credit on one thing because you already know the one thing that I'm gonna give you credit on. Mike Gesicki better be the bacon. Okay?
Oh yeah,
he ain't no freaking broccoli. Okay, Mike Gesicki. I will take. Nobody in my division better be listening to this. I am looking to take Gesicki in the back end of my Scott Fishbowl. Not obviously tight ends are going to go, but as a backup, I like Mike Gesicki. I think he's going to have a bounce back year. I do think Bill O'Brien is going to use him correctly. Flores used him right. McDaniel didn't in Miami. In all reality, we both know that Gesicki's not a damn tight end. Okay?
Yeah, they're using him more as a receiver.
He's a wideout. I think his second year in the league, he played 88% of the snaps in the slot. I mean, that's not a tight end. Okay? But let's get down to business here. This discussion is not about Mike Gesicki. This discussion is about mac and cheese. Okay? This guy isn't even Kraft. He's that freaking discount mac and cheese that you get at the freaking 99-cent store or even the Dollar General for 4 boxes for $1.
The powdered cheese even went bad somehow.
The powdered cheese has spots in it. Okay? Here's the thing, Jamie Pirogue. He's going 28th overall, okay? I have one question for Zach that I do not know Zach's answer on this. Jamie, I know your answer, so please do not say anything quite yet. And you're going to laugh when I ask this question. Mac Jones for this year. Mac Jones or Sam Howell?
Are you asking me?
No.
Because I just made this decision in a league.
Zach. No, Zach.
Okay.
Oh, I feel like you're asking me if I want a colonoscopy right now. Jesus. Oh,
it's not even. To me, it's not even. I already know my answer.
I don't want either.
Okay.
I mean, I view them the same way. Okay. Where those are my two big old red lines through them. Do not touch, do not consider. But I would probably have to say, and I think you're going to disagree. I'm still probably going to lean Jones because I don't know what.
The only reason I'm bringing it up, and I already know Jamie thinks that Brissett should be the QB. The only reason that I'm bringing it up, and it's not because of Brissett, Jamie. That's not why I'm bringing it up. The only reason I'm bringing it up is the 4 starting quarterbacks that are ranked lower than Mac on Fantasy Pros are all guys that you don't even know if they're going to be in the league next year. Sam Howell, Ryan Tannehill, Desmond Ridder, and Baker Mayfield. Okay.
It's funny. Baker's actually ranked 33rd.
30,
There's not even 33 teams.
32. So here's the thing. Zappy could win the job in August. Honest, like, I don't think Mac has it. Like, I'm not saying they're like gonna, it's up for grabs, but if Mac was to slip, I think Zappy could play. I think Mac is overrated. I thought Mac was overrated going in. Yes, he was drafted, 15th overall. They traded up to get him, whatever the case may be. I think this, like Zach said, you would like to see a little more. This is his 3rd year. This is it, in my opinion. I think it's make or break.
I agree to a point. I think one thing I'd say with Mac Jones is I see a realm where his career high could be, like kind of that consistent what Alex Smith was, not peak Alex Smith, but when he was just kind of a game manager, nothing really sexy for fantasy, but not at the complete bottom of the barrel. I could see a realm where Mac Jones turns into that, but I just don't see the kind of volume or the way he's weaponized as a QB to really produces anything more. So that's where, even if I saw that potential long term, it's really hard for me to get excited in any standpoint when that's kind of the ceiling I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm also worried about the weapons.
Rookie year, he did have 7 weeks where he was top 10 quarterback, and he was number 4 against the Cleveland Browns his rookie year, QB4. So I remember that game. I think that's
but you just said it. It was against the Cleveland freaking Browns.
His defense is not bad, man. That was a good defense.
But you know what I mean. It's like me saying, someone finished 2nd overall and they played against the Chiefs.
I do want to say I agree with Mike Jasecki. I never even answered that earlier, Jamie. I kind of just blacked out once I heard you start talking about Mac Jones. So that's where I never respond. I like that. I also think someone that I think is undervalued, and obviously different episode, different position, but Tyquan Thornton. I want to throw some love his way because out of the weapons there, that's someone I'm keeping my eye on as an undervalued target.
Yeah, I think I just sold Thornton for Cedric Tillman.
Yeah, I could see that. That's
I
same
would
range.
do that. I would do that.
I like Thornton more, but I can see like either way. Yeah, it's a good push. But
I like how they're going to use Gesicki out as a receiver, and then you also have Hunter Henry as a tight end that you can just steal at the end of drafts in round 20, 21. If you go that deep.
We've talked about a whole bunch of, high ceiling QBs, low ceiling QBs. And then there's a guy that somehow always gets talked about like a high tier one, but he kind of produces more in the middle of the road. Mike, you want to kind of explain to us who you got next?
Yep, and that's why there's a question mark next to his name in the show sheet. Because here's the thing. Dak Prescott gets talked about every year like he's a top 5, top 8 guy. And we talked about, Jamie thinks Russell Wilson can be a top 10 player. Me and Zach think that, there's an option that Rodgers can be top. You got Goff, who, is being undervalued. You got players like that. Well, that means that Dak is going to have to do something to end up in the range that he's being drafted at. And he's being drafted, or his rank on Fantasy Pros right now is number 10, 8 Lawrence, 9 Watson, 10 Prescott, 11 Tua, 12 Jones, like we talked about, and then Cousins, Geno Smith, Rodgers, and Goff, and then Wilson. I only went that deep because they're both players that we talked about. There's a realm that all of those players from 11 to 16 can finish above them. I do think Tua can finish above them if Tua can stay healthy. Losing Kellen Moore, I think, is going to be more of a detriment to that team than they think, because Mike McCarthy, Zach, you can attest to this, calling plays scares the living daylights out of me for the passing game. It doesn't scare me overall, like on the winning side, but for fantasy, it does scare me in the passing game. Yes, they have CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb's awesome. They lost Schultz. They have talent at tight end, but they don't have, they got to produce that talent. Yes, they brought in Brandon Cooks, who I think is going to do decent. Yes, they got, who else?
Michael Gallup's healthy now.
Michael Gallup's healthy, whatever. I said this on another show, or it might not even been on a show. It might have just been in a video stream, and someone said I was losing my mind. I don't think he finishes in the top 15.
Oh, wow. That's bold.
That's my bold. I think he finishes right around 15. And the reason I say that is I do think Tua is going to stay healthy. I do think Goff is going to finish in the top 15. I mean, you even said it. You could have Goff finish in the top 15, Rodgers. I can see Geno.
The ceiling is so much higher for QB 15 now, and I think that's where when a lot of people hear you say Dak outside of the QB 15, that's you saying like he's going to like drastically underproduce compared to other starting QBs that have volume. I think he'll still produce, but I just think it says more about how many good, talented QBs there are that can at least do a respectable job in regards to winning, but also in regards to fantasy production. Because someone like Daniel Jones, I could get the case, Jared Goff, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, even Derek Carr. Like you name them.
For all we know, Richardson could end up in the top 15 with his rushing upside if things work out right.
Even those other rookie QBs, what happens if Young or Stroud actually turned out to be this awesome asset? You know, I'm not there. You know, I'm not.
Yeah.
They would have been on the show sheet as someone I was going to defend if that were the case. But you know, there's definitely a realm where a lot of guys could jump into it. So I think it's less of a slight at Dak and more of just hey, there's a lot more competition for this range now.
To me, it's two things. Before Jamie goes, to me, it's two things. One of it's not a slide on Dak. It's the quarterback competition. It's the quarterback competition in the league, and it's Mike McCarthy. Jamie, take it, or Zach. Yeah, I know you love Mike McCarthy.
Or I would just want to say, if you could give me Dak at QB 15 in drafts, absolutely, I'd be thrilled with that. I think that's a great price. But I know I'm going to have to pay for him as a QB 8 to QB 10. And there's just enough guys that I know I can prioritize later in the draft that I think might have more upside. And that's where you got to just, you know, the cost versus the risk. Am I buying more is there more room to climb or more room for them to fall? And I'm usually looking for the guys that can climb rather than fall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm never excited to draft them. But if, like I said in the Scott Fish Bowl, I was kind of forced to take him.
Yeah.
He went off the board as I think, quarterback 10. So drafted him like right at his ADP. I didn't feel good about it, but if you got to look at the guys that were after him, he's a safe pick.
He's that comfortable pick.
Yeah, that's where you just have to settle for him.
Fuck Dak Prescott. He's not a safe pick. Screw you guys for even saying that. You know who my two of my three QBs were in the Scott Fish Bowl last year? Dak Prescott and Mac Jones.
He got hurt.
Both were out week 1. I didn't have shit for QBs. I was like, oh, please, like Brett Ripien or whoever is out there. I was desperate.
And like he is a guy, like he is my number one quarterback. With my last pick, I am going to probably target Cooper Rush just to be safe because he did pretty good when he was there. But I think he's going to have to throw more this year because you're not going to have Zeke. Like you brought in Brandon Cooks, you got your deep threat. Gallup's healthy.
And I know, Mike, you didn't list him with Dak Prescott, but I have to give my man some love. I was taking him in 4th rounds of rookie drafts last year. Jake Ferguson. You know, this was a super sleeper tight end pick last year. I mean, they had Schultz, so no one was even paying attention. He was getting a fair share of volume for being the backup last year, and he was impressing. And I think it says something when, you know, clearly Schultz is gone now. Like Ferguson is expected to be that guy, and Ferguson's someone I think is super undervalued. You know, if I'm looking at that young tight end with upside, rather than the Laportas, the Musgraves, the Crafts, I'm looking at a Jake Ferguson's because I think there's more of a clear role there. And I know Mike McCarthy likes his tight ends. I think it's really that high? No, but I think there's a lot of value to be made.
Yeah, and I did draft Shoemaker. So I don't know what round they drafted him in, but it was pretty high, I thought, because when they took him, I was like, who is this guy? Why is he
And
being drafted so high?
And I believe Ferguson was a 4th rounder last year,
Yeah,
so
he
they
was
were
fourth.
fairly early on him too.
And I don't know if you guys knew this, but Dak's real name is Dakota Rain Prescott. Sounds like a Disney pop star.
All right, so from Disney pop stars to the cheat of the week, we're at an hour and 20 minutes. We each have a player real quick that we want to talk about. So Zach's been talking about young tight ends. Take another one away because I think if you're going where I think you're going, I agree.
It's a time to shine. Is that where you thought I was going with it?
Absolutely.
Good. I was going to be very hurt if you said otherwise. Trey McBride is his name. Arizona Cardinals. This is the forgotten tight end prospect that we were all super excited not too long ago in rookie drafts. But he went to a team that also had a veteran proven tight end that was going to produce. McBride was still creeping his way onto the field, but now that, just like Jake Ferguson, this is his job now. And I think obviously there's a lot of questions with Kyler Murray, when he'll be back, how that team looks. We expect them to be bad, but someone's got to catch the damn ball. Trey McBride was taken early that year. I don't remember. Was it last year or the year prior?
Last year.
Okay.
Last year.
Okay. I couldn't remember if it was a year or two ago now. It just seems like so long because I was excited about him off the bat, and then he just kind of fell to the wayside. And this is a guy that I know I can take late in drafts, and it's someone that I'd highly recommend taking, not as your tight end one, but as someone that has true production at tight end upside that you can just stash on the bench and hope for the best. You're not going to have to pay a lot. And hey, guess what? I might have a starting tight end that could probably – I have him finishing, if everything goes right, in that tight end 12 to 15 range, if he can really shine into that role. But that 12 to 15 isn't much difference between 12 and like 20 to me.
No,
That's not
15 and 20 is like a point.
Yeah,
per game.
it's not a lot of points regardless, but I think he can be in that range if he's getting the volume. Thoughts on Trey McBride before we advance?
I love McBride, man. Like, he's one of the guys I've been targeting this year in dynasty startups. People are just overlooking him, like you said. Like, they just forgot about him. He was the number one tight end being drafted last year. And
it's funny how quickly that changes, right?
Well, yeah, Dolchich. People like Dolchich and Likely and a couple other guys just jumped him because of production instead of looking at – people looked at current production instead of looking at like what we were talking about earlier, the whole narrative of tight ends take a little bit plus the situation.
And when we played last year when Ertz was hurt, he did pretty good. I saw flashes of him. Just people don't remember. Guys like us take them late in drafts.
And then there's the hot new girl in town. There's the next rookie class of tight ends. I get it. Everyone's on to the next hot thing. But that's where the benefit of someone like Trey McBride, where you can get that high upside guy, and he just kind of fell to the wayside out of nowhere. Mike, your thoughts?
So I think McBride, I agree with both of you. McBride, I think, got the short end of the stick on this one, like NFL-wise, and, value for fantasy. I think he is being undervalued. He is on a shitty-ass team. I have to bring that up. But someone's got to catch the ball, like you said. They do have a couple wide receivers, but they don't have anyone else. Ertz is getting older. Ertz is not athletic anymore. McBride is. And the other thing, we don't know what's going to happen in the future with quarterback. They might not, there's rumors, Kyler might not be there next year or whatever. All I know is this. Kyler is not starting the year this year. And what is a young quarterback's best friend? A safety valve.
Yep.
Why do I say young quarterback? Because the starting quarterback of that team is not going to be Colt McCoy. It's not going to be David Blau. It's going to be Clayton Tune. And if Clayton Tune is the starting quarterback of that team, I think that actually helps McBride even more.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
All right, so we got a young guy, and now we got a couple old guys or mid-level ageable guys, not young. Take it away about one on the West Coast, Jamie.
If you're looking for a tight end 2 to draft that has some upside, it's going to be Tyler Higbee. He ended up being tight end number 6 at the end of the year, but it wasn't consistent. He had like big games or no games, but he's got a healthy Matthew Stafford. Like, he's a year removed from his elbow injury. They didn't really add anybody besides Puka Nakua. Is that how you pronounce it?
Puka Nakua.
Puka Nakua. Besides that, it's the same core. So I could see him having those big games again, and yeah, especially for best ball, he's definitely a great tight end to target, and that's pretty much all I got to say.
So what I'll say real quick, because I love this, because you asked me right before the show started if you should keep Higbee on the show sheet, and
Yeah.
I told you to do it. I do think the talk for Nakua is real, but Stafford is a vet, just like Zach knows. Like with Rodgers in Green Bay, you get your favorites, you like your favorites when it comes to a vet. I think he is going to be the second target on that team to Cup. Obviously, I'm not saying he's going to be up there with Cup and targets because Cup's targets are going to be way higher, but he is going to be targeted. That offense doesn't have very many weapons at wideout. When you're looking at Puka Nakua and Van Jefferson and freaking Ben Skroenik being the wide receiver core behind Cup, there's no reason that Higbee shouldn't get the targets. Zach?
I'm out. Nope.
Whoa!
No can
We
do.
actually
You
disagree.
sure have
Here we
Everett or
go. I love it. I love that me and
I'm
Zach
out.
disagree.
Not about it on the tight end. Nope.
Why
Higbee
not?
is
Why
no
not?
can.
Is it
Just
Higbee or is it the offense?
it's both. Both. I would say Higbee, like I could see the opportunities there with that offense, but for me, it's just year after year, that's a name that I've kind of, you hear the hype, and if you're not in, you just don't really see it, and then he never really fulfill. Like he doesn't burn anyone, but he doesn't, like, for the people like myself who aren't necessarily in love with him, he never really does enough to really inspire you to believe either. You know what I mean? Like if you're there and you see the value, he's not going to hurt you year after year. But if you're like me, where you don't really see the value, he's also not a guy that really ever punishes me for not taking it. And that's just kind of my standpoint on Higbee. I don't take him, but yeah, just very, very lukewarm. I didn't put it in the microwave for long enough. That's how I feel with Higbee.
All right. So the one I want to bring up. So I want to say something else before I bring up my guy because I know everyone loves the other player on this team. So I'm going to bring him up just real quick. Buffalo drafted the new hotness, and Zach has the grin on his face, and you should have the grin on your face. When I put the name on the sheet, I don't want people to think that I don't think people should be grinning about and be happy about drafting Kincaid. Kincaid is the real deal. I 100% believe that. But like we've said, I still believe in the tight end situation about rookies needing a little bit of time. And I also think they're going to use Kincaid more, not totally in line. The reason I bring that up is people are still sleeping on Dawson Fort Knox. I do think that Dawson Knox is still going to have value for the next 2 years. He's got an out on his contract after 2024. I do think he'll be involved in 23. I do think he'll be involved in 24. I do not think he'll be on the team in 25. That is when the Buffalo Bills will go all in on Kincaid. They'll probably go all in on him on 24, but they'll still use Knox. Don't sleep on Knox. I would be happy to have Knox as my tight end 2 this year in fantasy. Zach, I know you love Kincaid. Will you just go first?
I don't know what you're even talking about. I thought you said something about Knox maintaining value or something. Maintaining what? He hasn't produced. It's just hope still. Just hope.
I
I
would
guess
take him at tight end. I think he can finish at tight end 15 still with Kincaid.
Yeah.
People don't think he
I
can.
could see that. Dawson Knox is a guy that I've definitely been out on for a while.
Yeah, you
And
have. That's why I wanted you to go
and someone
first.
like Dalton Kincaid is someone that I truly do love. So that's where it's really tough for me to see a realm. But if they want to go 2 tight end sets, I see a realm where Kincaid could actually open up a lot more opportunity for Knox. because I think Kincaid is the real deal. I think it does benefit someone like, if Kincaid, shifts out, he's not on the field for this play, I think defenses might view it differently, and that might leave Knox open more. If he's not being treated like the tight end one on that team when they're throwing a lot, it could benefit him for sure. I'm not taking Knox in a lot, but I guess that's where my question, if Knox or McBride are available, who are you taking at that slot?
In Dynasty,
Yeah.
McBride.
Okay. Because I know they're in that kind of that same range, so I was just curious. Because for me, I see the year one. Jeez, my cat's falling all over the place, but but no, I see the immediate production, but I'm just not too optimistic. I guess that's where there's some enough other guys where I think there can be more long term. But if you're someone like you, Mike, where you believe that he can show enough this year to get an opportunity with the new team, I think that's where I'd be investing more in Knox. If I think that he can put enough on his resume, his highlight tape for free agency when he's potentially looking at another team, and then they can incorporate him more, I'd be more excited about him at that point. But I think I'm just kind of over Knox in this situation in Buffalo because there's been enough opportunity for excitement and hope in not really, fulfilling it to the fullest extent. Jamie, what are your thoughts with Doxson?
I mean, he's one of those invisible players that are on my draft board. Like, I just, for some reason, don't even see him. And I'm not looking for him, but I'm not ignoring him either. I just don't see him. Because obviously they do got the new tight end, but I think they're going to be playing him more in the slot anyway. And I don't know. I'm going to have to think about this because if you're saying if he's going to maintain value, like what value did he really have last year though? Because I don't remember him being that.
I would say if you can pay like a future, would you give up a 25-second for him?
No way. I wouldn't even give up a third for Knox.
I'd give up a third.
I'd give up a third easy. I'd give up a third
because I think there's enough of a chance for him to maybe be that guy that just needed that new situation, that new QB, that new offensive scheme to really shift. I think there's enough. It's the flashes in the pan. It's a dime a dozen. It's not very often, but I think there has been a couple of times where you can see why there would be excitement with Knox. I just don't trust it. So that's where, if I'm tight end heavy and I've got like an Andrews and then someone else that I feel is my clear backup, Knox is a guy I'd love to have stashed further down, but that's just, hopeful return without really any cost.
So in Dynasty, would you rather have Dawson Knox or Laporta?
Oh, I'm taking McBride, Laporta, you name it over. Yeah.
A bunch of my early drafts before Laporta started getting the hype, I was getting Laporta in the third round. So I wouldn't want to give up that pick.
I guess I was talking after this rookie draft. I was thinking for next year's. But
maybe someone like that next year. You never know.
Yeah, but I mean, for the immediate year, I could understand a case to have it because if there's a couple of good weeks,
exactly. That's what I was thinking. Yeah,
that's where I was just viewing it as a quick flip, but also it's less so in startups, more so in the pre-existing dynasty leagues I'm in, where I'd consider acquiring Knox because I think at that point he's borderline cuttable already in a lot if it's not a super deep league. And that's where I think I could offer, maybe a 4th round pick or something where I think there's more upside than what I'm paying.
Last year he finished tight end 15.
Yeah, but he had 7 games within top 10. Am I counting that correctly?
Yeah, I mean, 7's a good amount, but I mean, top 10, was that like 8 to 10 or is that?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I was on say there's a big difference in that tight end position between like the top 5. And that's, I guess, that's my concern is yes, there's those hot flash weeks, but at that point, why not just you're going to have a few cracks at it. If you're taking someone that you think that has that upside, you probably have a few guys that you're interchanging at that tight end position.
And he's going to be free at the end of the drafts anyway if you're doing best ball.
Yeah. He's
I'm not really thinking best ball though.
Hey, I'm thinking more just like a stash piece in Dynasty or an end of my bench. If it's a tight end premium, That's especially in tight end premium. I like to just get greedy with stashing extra tight ends and
Well,
not
kind of like you, Zach. One of the things that I do when I usually I rarely pay up on a tight end. So when I don't, I go I'm doing those dart throws at the end, like you're saying,
Yeah.
like you did, get the stashes and then play and plug.
Oh, and it works out great because then I've got teams now where I have multiple rosters where I have Trey McBride, Jake Ferguson, Chig, and Jelani Woods. And it was just because I was high on all of them and like their stocks had gone down and I acquired them and now they're all upside guys that
I
have
got
bigger
one that's
roles.
got Njoku, Chig, McBride, and Rucker.
Okay. Yeah. I like the tight end stack, so I really do. And I usually go zero QB, zero tight end for the most part. But if people are being passive on tight ends, I'll gladly I'm in a 14 teamer. I had Jared Goff and Daniel Jones at QB. And that's the one where I have Kittle, Andrews, Waller, and then and it's a tight end premium. But it's multiple flexes.
Okay,
And it's one QB, one running back, one wide receiver, one tight end, and then four flex and a super flex.
I'm in a
And
league.
so,
I'm in a league like that.
but that's a tight end premium, and that's where I'm like, hey, you guys want to reach for all the QBs early?
Yeah.
Now I won year one with Jared Goff, Daniel Jones, and then I at the deadline acquired Carr on the cheap, and I had Jordan Love stashed. And this year I'm entering with 4 starters. It's just, hey, be patient and take the cheap flyers. We got so many QB and tight end.
Yeah,
That's what we've been talking about.
It's the position of flyers. All
Love
right,
it.
so I think we had a great show tonight. We ran a little long, but guess what? I don't care. It was a great talk, especially about, like Zach just said, these are one positioners, so treat it like so and don't overvalue it. Let's throw it around the horn for sign-offs, and then we'll get out of here. Zach, take it away, my dude.
You can find me on Twitter behind the Zach. Otherwise, you can find me all over going for 2. This is my home. This is where I'm at. And otherwise, I'm on the pickleball court. Thanks for having me back as always. Missed you guys. I'm glad to be here. And Kyle said I have a league like that, Zach. Lots of flex spots. Yep, I love the tight end stacks. If people aren't valuing it, hey, get greedy. Guess what? Then when they get desperate, they got to pay up. Hold them by the balls in the trade talks.
Yep.
That's what I love.
Jamie, go ahead, my dude.
Yeah, find me on Twitter, Jamie Perogue. I'm also on Facebook a lot in my fantasy football discussion group. We got a Dynasty Dominance group also, Dynasty specific. Other than that, I'm over here at Going for 2, always in the chats, always talking it up. So come join us.
All right. Before I give my thing, I just got to say, Jamie's in every chat. Jamie pays attention to the chats more than he pays attention to almost anything in his life, and I love it. You can find me over at Drop the Mic FF on the new on the Twitter machine and on the new threads. Other than that, you can find me here on Tuesday nights. It was a great show for Zach, for Jamie. I'm Mike.